The table shakes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Juice Fresh Talk. I am your host. I'm going to keep scooching. So I'm trying to I'm like taking all the space.
It's okay. It's okay. We're trying to get situated and comfortable here.
And if you touch the table, everything shakes. So trying to be extra careful. So I am your host, Dr. Cindy Banyai, and I am here with special guest host today, Sarah Wilson.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm filling in for Chantel this week.
Yeah, because Chantel is on amazing adventure in Pakistan.
Yes.
And we've been seeing the pictures coming in from that, and she is just exploring there. It looks like she's a celebrity.
She definitely looks like a celebrity. And I think one of her posts, she even said she's feeling like Beyonce with a B next to it. So she's eating up that celebrity status that is being put on her.
You know, she's so bright and bubbly too. I'm sure that when people are seeing her, they're very happy. And there's all these pictures of like kids running up to her. So it's so cool. So we're hoping that she has a fantastic rest of her journey. And can't wait to hear all the stories when she comes back here to us in Fort Myers. But this week, what are we talking about?
Oh, what aren't we talking about? There is a whole lot going on in Florida right now. We are like the talk of the country right now, and for good reason, because there's a lot of shenanigans going on that we need to kind of break down. And I think people need to know how these things affect them directly.
Yeah. Right.
And how they affect communities.
So really, it's all about the Florida legislature. So we're going to be talking about the different bills that are coming up. We did a little bit. Actually, if you want a whole primer on this, check out not today's episode, but the episode from last week of Misinformational with Rebecca Jones. We also have a write-up on the website, bigmouthmediafl.com. basically outlining all of it's not even all, it's only just like a handful of areas.
Yeah, it would be impossible.
But you know, it's the bills that are affecting education and healthcare. And the one thing that she pointed out just before we dive into the topics here is that there's been a huge change in the information and the privacy stature, the privacy ordinances related to public officials.
Ooh.
So trying to make it more difficult and exempting public officials from public records requests.
But they want all the information on us, which is pretty hypocritical, because most of the bills that we're talking about are seen by many, myself included, to be an invasion on privacy.
Right.
And we're still waiting to hear from the Florida Supreme Court on the initial abortion ban, which was 15 weeks.
Right.
So many of us in the activist world, or even just people that are interested in that, have been kind of hypothesizing that they're going to wait. They're going to wait to put forth any other bans until that goes through the Supreme Court because of Florida's position on privacy in our Constitution. They did not.
They did not, right?
Because
the 6-week abortion ban was put forth last week by Southwest Florida, co-sponsored by Southwest Florida Representatives Jenna Persons and Spencer Roach. And I know that it was in committee today. So why don't you just give everybody a little bit of an overview about what we're looking at with this particular law?
Okay, this particular law bans abortion at 6 weeks. It does, however, have an exception for rape and incest. But the problem with that is, and going back to the privacy issue, the problem with that is that you have to provide all of this documentation on the fact that you've been raped. You have to prove that to the physician, and then they have to keep record of that, be it a police report, a restraining order, medical examination. So all of this information that they're asking for, we already kind of know, or most people know, the difficulty surrounding that when it comes to rape and how difficult that is to rehash that experience and why many rapes go unreported. So because of the historical, even in court, when women have to prove that they've been raped and they're often questioned or their characters put online and they're put on trial. So that's like a difficult situation already, right? So now they have to prove that they've been raped to yet another party, their doctor, in order to get this medical treatment. So to me, the first thing I think of when I look at that is, wow, that is an incredible invasion on privacy. And we have all of these laws to protect medical records and to protect your privacy in that way. And now you're having to put all of this on record and prove your point.
And of course, it's rolling back because we do have, as you said, the 15-week abortion ban that passed in the 2022 legislative session.
Right.
And that is being challenged in the courts. And it's interestingly, because we had the rollback of Roe at the Supreme Court level, but the case, I think, is being tried because of the Supreme Court of Florida and the Constitution of Florida that protects privacy.
Right.
So this is interesting. So it actually might be that piece of law and legal framework that rolls back the 15-week abortion ban here in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then we'll see about the legality of the 6-week as well, because it will be on similar grounds. Oh my goodness. Look at this.
That is
guys,
beautiful.
check this out. So we are, of course, here at Seed and Bean, downtown Fort Myers. And I just got this beautiful cocktail. Look at this. I can't even remember what it's called. It's watermelon cucumber mocktail. Let me give it a try.
Mojito of some sort. And I'm here with my plain water now, regretting my choice because that looks gorgeous.
So good. So don't forget that you can come and join us here at Seed and Bean.
Yes.
It's open during the day. They got a great food menu, great snacks, great drinks. But if you join us, if you get here at 5:30 and then we stay here a little bit after the show as well, you can join in the conversation. You can pipe in when we're talking. We have a special guest here with me, Megan Vargas, who was my campaign assistant through the summer, and we worked on the Capitol Hill together back at the turn of the century, which sounds so very long ago at this point. But she's down here visiting, and we're reminiscing, and she's joined us here. But yeah, this is a great opportunity. We're trying to build some community and some conversation.
Yeah.
Fresh Talk is about these tough conversations, especially with Chantel, and that's what's so brilliant about. When we have her here with us, she's kind of questioning some of these things that people accept as just real, and so we can talk about them, because I think that this is important for us to do now, because otherwise, we don't want people just walking in, taking assumptions, and doing what everybody tells them to do.
Right. Chantel has a certain intellectual curiosity, which could segue into another thing going on in Tallahassee. So we all know about what is the name of it, Cindy? Give me the name.
The attacks on higher ed?
Yeah. Who cares about the name? It's an attack on higher education.
Oh, the specific bills? There's several bills.
There's the Senate bill, and then there's the House bill that talk about hiring, talk about critical race theory yet again.
Right.
Which to me, and this is the biggest part of that, is that they don't even know the definition of critical race theory, which causes this vagueness. Because for me, what I'm really taking out of this is what you mean, and the way it's been described is what you mean is anything that's critical on race relations throughout American history.
Right. Well, and now you hear when everyday folks are being interviewed on it, they're like, oh, and critical queer theory. Now, I don't think that that's actually a thing.
No.
And they're saying like critical anything. So it's just like that's now become the moniker for things. So what I do know is that in the bills that are coming through the Florida legislature right now, they're actually working to roll back tenure, right? So they're looking for a tenure review. Which, by the way, let me just tell you, as somebody who's worked in academia for 9 years, no one like me is going to get tenure. Okay. The folks that have tenure right now, the very few that are left, right, they're going to be there. And frankly, the university systems want them to not have tenure anymore,
right? Because
they're more expensive. Instead, what they've done to the millennial class of academics is they have pigeonholed us into essentially adjunct positions. So 75% of institutional faculty staff at universities across the United States, and Florida universities are no exception, are part-time adjunct faculty. So that means that most of the time the students, especially undergrad students, have somebody in their class that's a part-time instructor.
Right.
I am a PhD, so I'm like the least desirable adjunct faculty. not because of what I do, but because I'm more expensive. They pay the PhDs a little bit more, but it's better to have a PhD adjunct faculty than it is to have a full professor, because those folks, they have to pay for healthcare and they give them office and all this other kind of stuff. So actually my university, my department chair always tries to give me more classes, and it's always rejected by the university, because if I go over, they have to consider me a full-time staff and they have to give me healthcare, and they don't want to. So
which is a huge problem with any job. Like we see that especially after COVID and people were losing their jobs and everybody's like, nobody wants to work. No, nobody wants to work and get part-time hours so you can hire a million people, give them part-time, no benefits, who can support themselves that way.
And I mean, it's tough. It's super tough. So that whole thing is just an attack on this idea that there's these entrenched folks in academia, and it's really just, it's very archaic at this point. The other thing that's actually in that bill talks about actually eliminating different departments, gender studies, and then that's where you get the critical race theory. And they said something like, I think they did throw the critical queer theory or something in there too.
They did.
But it's one of those things where it's like, I don't, maybe at Florida State or, at Florida, they have these.
They have queer theory, but I don't think critical theory is a way of going about research. It's a specific type of research. So that's where again, I'm like, okay, but and the problem isn't that, okay, this is what is actually the law. The problem is that no one is clear what the actual law is. So they're changing the way that they're presenting information. As a student, as a college student right now, just since all of these bills have been proposed in the last 2 years, I've noticed a huge difference in how my professors are teaching. And I'm bored. I'm bored because it's like just a regurgitation of information rather than taking a deep critical dive on information. And it's not to say, oh, you're bad. It's to say, how can we look at this and analyze it and see the different groups and how they were affected and how that still affects us today? Like, to be relatable, not to criticize per se, but to be relatable and to understand where we are. And, if you're not critically thinking at the college level, then you have a problem. What are you doing? What are you even doing? So that's where it goes back to that intellectual curiosity. The whole point of academia and scholarly research is to think critically and to be curious about how these systems affect one another and how they have throughout history.
Well, and what my brain is kind of going as you're talking too, because like I said, no, it's perfect. Because like I said, I haven't changed, but then again, I don't care if they fire me, because what I tell, I'm part-time. I tell my students, this is like my side gig. Right. I love the students, and that's why I'm there. I love teaching, and that's it. But if they fire me, that's okay. But I almost wonder if that's not the point, like that
clearing
they can
people out.
Well, that they can just defund it and move, get people out in a way so that it will be more difficult to keep and retain staff.
Yeah, I think so. And also, like, this whole idea of liberal indoctrination. I'm like, but the whole point in taking critical thinking out of academia is that you're indoctrinating. You're giving information and asking people not to question it. I swear
to God, if I could indoctrinate my students to do anything, it would be to do their work. I can't get them to do that.
I do my work.
I don't. Trust me, there's no indoctrination going on because I can't get them to show up. I can't get them to
listen,
do their work.
I'm always appalled when I hear other students, they're like, you're reading that? I'm like, yeah, it's assigned. Like, what does that even mean? Yeah. But I'm an old lady going back to school. So there's a totally totally different feel.
It's like, if I can indoctrinate them.
Yeah.
Like I would. It's like I literally, like, my class, I'm like, can you just please just try to think for 5 minutes on this? If you just think about it, just think about it. And if you've done that, then I've done a good job.
Right.
No, there's not any indoctrination. And what's always funny to me is that for me, I ran for Congress. My opinions are really well known, right? But in class, I'm very good at kind of buffering that.
Yeah.
My evaluations are always about how fair and how I present different sides and how everybody feels welcome and to have these conversations, which is really says something.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
what's so funny is the guy who in the Florida legislature in 2022 sponsored the bill that made it necessary for everybody in the university to take a survey of their political opinions, the staff and the students, was Ray Rodriguez, who was administrator at Florida Gulf Coast University.
Interesting.
And so I actually saw him at a forum one day, and I was like, Ray, I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, I was like, this is a was targeting. I was like, I have really amazing reviews from my students and always being really fair.
Right.
And I said, and if you're not targeting me, who are you targeting?
Right.
The most overt political person on faculty. If you're not targeting me, who are you targeting? He goes, well, not everybody's like you. And I'm like,
so not true.
If you're not targeting me, who are you targeting?
I can say, again, as a student of political science, okay, so I'm studying politics, and even the professors that I now know personally outside of school, who I know their political beliefs, never did they overstep or push any of their beliefs or nothing like that. Right. Never did I feel. In fact, there were many times where I was like, how are you even tolerating the commentary in this class right now? Right. Because sometimes it would be off the wall, especially in this kind of political climate. Yeah. The things we hear in these classes now can be kind of crazy, but it's just this, this whole idea of stripping, queer studies of Black history even at the high school level, and making it go back to like remove all of this stuff to whitewash it, basically, when our history, even in K through 12, is already so whitewashed. I mean, it already is.
Well, and so a lot of the things that are happening too are very, some of them are very inside baseball ones. One of the things that's also in that bill is about giving more control to the boards of the universities, right? And the boards are appointed by the governor, right? So for instance, on FGCU's board, Erica Donalds, who is my former opponent, Byron Donald's wife, who has zero experience in higher education, and her experience is actually in charter schools at the K to 12 level, right? But somehow she's, should be on the board. And he was on the board at FSW too. He was not qualified to be there either. Yeah. But because it's not about being qualified, it's cronyism. It's crony politics.
It's definitely cronyism. You were just appointing people who are friendly and friendly to our ideology, and then we're making the accusations that that's actually happening on the other side. It's like this mirrored effect. Yep. But so basically the one thing that I really wanted to talk about is how communities are reacting to these bills and how activists are reacting to these bills. So if you're having like this backsliding and taking out Black African American history, queer studies, things like that, then you have these groups that are coming in to say, oh, okay, we got to pick up the slack because we cannot have this information being withheld. It's important information. And again, that's going back to where we are today is a direct reflection of where we've been. So, oh, my wife is saying hello. Hi, Boo. Hi, thanks for watching. But so we're seeing that happen in a big way right here in Lee County. Okay, so we have the Lee County Black History Society and Museum, which is incredible. One of our local attorneys who is, in my opinion, he's just the man in Lee County. He doesn't even know I exist, but as a future attorney, I look at him like he's the man.
It's Joe North.
Go Joe. Yeah, go Joe. He just donated $100,000. You heard me, $100,000 to the Lee County Black History Society and Museum. Yeah. So that's just another way, because it's these kinds of centers, institutions, museums, whatever, they're going to become even more crucial because they're going to have to fill in that gap of making sure that real history is being taught, because we can't continue like right now. That's why we are where we are, because of the ignorance, because white students need this information just as much. So that's the big issue, is there's going to be a gap there where white students really need Black history I mean, it's American history. This is influence and contributions made by Black Americans that nobody knows about. And I feel like art and music also come in, family, that also steps in to really fill those gaps. For me, that's kind of where I gained access to any information on activism, was the music I listened to. So luckily I had that. And I'll never forget when I first started getting into activism, honestly, was because of Tupac, one of my favorite artists, because I'm listening to his music and I'm like, wait, what's going on? What? Because you don't hear that. You don't know that information. You
Unless
have
you're
to
living
get it somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so especially like,
shout out to Tupac.
yeah.
She's wearing a Wu-Tang shirt too.
I mean, I'll represent for Wu-Tang as well, but culture and music has a way of moving people to act or to learn more.
And books even. So
But
we talk about books?
But wait, where are the books going?
They're being pulled off the shelves of schools across Florida. Again, because of vaguely written legislation around these different standards and things like that. And so schools, because now they're actually could potentially face legal charges to the individuals in the schools if they have these certain books. There was one author in particular, Jodi Picoult. I don't know how to say her name, but she's a youth author. 20 of her books got pulled from the shelves of Martin County.
Holy.
Apparently, what's been happening is this Moms for Liberty, which is this group of women, and it's, by the way, bankrolled by some very, very powerful extremist PACs. They just take this list of books that say, hey, these are the books that we don't like. If one person complains about them, they have to go through this process. Now, what one of their strategies has been is to actually take all the books, complain about all the books, and then basically bury the school in paperwork so that they can't do the process, and they just remain off the shelf indefinitely because they can't do a proper review process for 90 books in the time period, which is like 2 weeks.
Right.
So yeah, it's getting to the point where one person can come and say, oh, all these books are off limits for all the students. It's a pretty worrisome state of affairs here in Florida. And actually, when asked by the I think it was one of the spokesperson for the Senate Majority Leader on the book bans, they were quoted as saying, well, this shouldn't be an issue because the school media specialist should already be making sure that the appropriate content is available for students and inappropriate content is not.
But what do they deem? The problem is what they deem inappropriate. Right. What they deem inappropriate is real history. Okay, it's not critical history. It's actual history.
Berto Clemente.
Yeah, I mean, oh God. Talk
Toni
about
Morrison.
That. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, some of it are just
some of the greatest authors of the 20th century. Toni Morrison is one of the greatest, not greatest Black author. I mean, she is a Black author, but she is one of the greatest authors. Yeah. Sorry, hands down.
So, yeah. So it's just another way to cause trouble within the school district because they're also under attack in other ways with, I believe it's SB 1. It's the first bill that was filed this year, which is the total school choice bill.
Oh God.
So this bill removes essentially the income caps that there were for what's called the Hope Scholarship and allows those to be applied to any private school or charter school, any school in the state, school in the state, for anybody, for any reason, without limitations. And this is being called by opponents the Defund the Schools Act, essentially, because this is what it will do. It will end public schools because at any point in time, they're even actually talking about allowing those dollars to go to homeschool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, and they're talking about upwards of $50,000 a year. So even That's people insane. Who might ordinarily want to keep their kids in school, and I've heard, my liberal and progressive friends talking about this too, but with some of the changes between pulling books off the shelf, between things like the Guardian program, which Lee County just approved. The school board, by the way, that's arming people within the schools. And you want to talk about, trying to roll back school lunches and all these things that are happening.
Yeah.
Even liberal and progressive parents are considering pulling their kids out of school. And heck, if you're going to give me $50,000 per student to homeschool my kid,
yeah,
that's a tough thing to look at and not accept.
But we also have to, like, the kids that aren't able to do that, the work, again, all of these bills, what they end up doing is hurting people that are already hurting.
Right.
So we're like the abortion bill. We're again punishing people in poverty who don't have access to physicians. In 6 weeks, are you kidding me? To find out that they're pregnant in 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Like, then you have this where, okay, I'm a working father who can't stay at home with my child. They have to go to public school.
Give me $100,000 to homeschool my 2 kids.
Well, yeah, okay.
I'm going to quit my job.
Maybe. Okay, but then we have other ways that it's affecting our society.
$50,000 for 1 kid?
Yeah, that's crazy. And our public schools are
everybody's going to quit and homeschool their kids.
Yeah. My wife says, FYI, you can't even get a doctor's appointment in this town in 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. You are so right. You cannot. Luckily, we have places like Planned Parenthood, Piper. But, that's a whole nother issue. The defunding of Planned Parenthood, who provides more than abortions. That's where a lot of people go for their cancer screenings. Like, all of these things that's what I mean. They affect the wider community. Sure. People quit their jobs because they're going to get paid $50,000 a year to homeschool. Okay, where's our workforce going? So we have all of these issues.
They're gonna. That's the what is that? The FAFO.
Yeah, okay.
We're gonna fuck around and find out.
Right.
Shit, I'll stay home for $100,000 to take care of these kids. I'll take all these kids. Yeah, maybe $50,000 a pop. That's all of them.
More than teachers get paid. I'm just gonna become a homeschool teacher.
Yeah.
Can I get that check too?
Yeah.
I don't have kids, but I'll teach your kids.
We'll just go to the farm and do like goat yoga and stuff.
I could provide a decent education out there on that farm about life skills.
You could actually get all these kids to just work on your farm. This is the type of opportunity we're looking at.
Now we're encroaching on labor laws. I think
we're gonna roll back those too, just like Arkansas. Fuck child labor laws.
Yeah, we need a workforce. They need to start young. Sorry, get them on the farm. We're kidding. Okay, don't cancel us. We are kidding. Okay.
All right. So education's under attack. Okay, let's talk about another area that's really in this vein of the culture war attack.
Okay.
And that's the trans health. So today was the first day actually that the medical care for trans youth became illegal in the state of Florida.
Okay. Cindy, you're going to have to I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. However, I'm not as knowledgeable on this.
Yeah. So this one is tough. Trans folks have become this lightning rod for the right, essentially, because it's a tough area. It's a tough thing. Mm-hmm. It had been something that was very undercover in the past. And as opinions have liberalized over the last several decades, there's been more visualization of people in the trans community. And they have now, especially over the last 5 years, become this very lightning rod is the best way to put it. It started with the bathroom bills, which is the same kind of thing where they say, okay, you have to use the bathroom that's assigned to you at
I don't even know why people care about that, because I'll tell you right now, I've peed in many of men's restrooms because I'm going wherever is available.
And I traveled around China in the early 2000s. I've pissed in a trough with no door. So I mean, I'm with you.
I'm terrible at squatting, like peeing outside. I'm terrible. This is TMI, but I'm not good at that.
So I actually want the Battlestar Galactica bathrooms for my sci-fi friends. You know what I'm talking about?
No
Battlestar
idea.
Galactica had like these totally integrated bathrooms. They had totally integrated sports, like NBD, all of it. That's what I want.
Okay. I mean, I think the bottom line is however you feel, about what medications or trans youth and what hormones or whatever they're doing, however you feel about it, the problem here is that state is taking authority and they're coming in where medical doctors belong. So that's like
Right.
That's what I want people to really understand with abortion, with these trans bills, is that we are making the state come into this very personal decisions,
Right.
decisions that should be made within a family. And the assumption is when the state inserts itself, the assumption is that we are incapable of making these decisions ourselves. So it speaks to a whole slew of other issues and has so many like expanding implications, especially, for me with abortion, with women and how we're viewed and how
Right.
how capable we are to not be like these murderous villains, like, because that's how we're being portrayed.
Right.
And it's not that. It's
Yeah.
not that at all.
I think a lot of it too. So, these are buzzword things. These are
Right,
these are things that
absolutely.
get people going. The evangelical right has really taken the mantle of anti-abortion. It's been a huge push for them, and they villainized the entire thing.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that these are medical procedures.
Right.
The vast majority of them do not occur in the way that the dead baby sign holding people say that they do. They are chemical abortions in the early days of a pregnancy, and it happens before the pregnancy is viable, and so on and so forth. The thing is the later term ones, there's something that's always wrong. It's not ladies just rolling up saying, "Hey, guess what? I don't want this kid anymore." It's like they're gonna die. They're bleeding out from the inside. Which, by the way, I also heard the United States has just an absolutely abhorrent maternal mortality rate, and has higher, of course, for Black women. But we're talking about it being 15 times as high as our nearest developed country counterpart, right? 15 times. So it's like 33.2 women per 100,000 births die. And it's 2 per 100,000 in Australia.
And Black women are what, 3 times?
Yeah.
3 times.
So you're
higher?
talking about that disproportionately affecting Black women.
Absolutely, of course.
So and so there's pregnancy is a dangerous thing, especially in the United States now. So and a lot of it does have to do with misinformation around abortion care.
Right.
I've actually met and talked with numerous women who are anti-abortion, who themselves have had abortions and don't even know. They don't even know. This is wild. Because the procedures that they have, if you've had a DNC after a miscarriage, if you've had even what they call the late term abortion, so that's anything after I think it's 16 weeks, right? I've met 2 women just in the past year who have had those procedures and do not even recognize that they've had an abortion because they've been so misled by the propaganda and the anti-abortion movement that they don't realize that the medical care, the necessary medical care that they received is at risk because of the types of laws that they're promoting.
Well, and that's why it's so problematic and why we're seeing women dying who have like literally dead fetuses inside of them that they can't get the DNC that they need after the fatality, because doctors, the term that they use for all of those situations is abortion. So when you have that in legislation, doctors don't know what to do. So again, it's the way that these laws are being written and the consequences that they are having outside of. And that's why they're vague. Okay.
Right. Well, that's why they're vague because they're written poorly.
Right.
Because it's not about legislation and law and policy. It's about political points.
Right.
And they don't really care what they've had, or even frankly, if they're unconstitutional and have been proven unconstitutional before, which many laws that we see are coming through the Senate have.
Right.
Especially, many of these abortion laws have been tried, but they kept throwing them at the fence, hoping that one day the Roe would be turned over, and it happened.
Yeah.
The other thing with the trans bills, and this is what I just like to remind folks, is we are talking about an extraordinarily small amount of people.
Yeah.
Just a very, very small but very vulnerable group of people.
Yeah.
No one is just running around saying, I'm going to change my gender because today I feel like wearing a dress.
Which is how it's portrayed. It is portrayed that way. It's portrayed that confused children who don't yet know who they are. And like I said, I'll be honest, this isn't an issue that I fight for the rights of every individual so that they can make their own decisions with their bodies and with their families or with their parents if they're a minor. So I'm going to fight for that issue, of course, but I'm not as knowledgeable.
Well, the thing is that especially with the gender affirming care for minors,
Right.
it really doesn't happen. And this is the part that people don't talk about, but it doesn't happen essentially unless there's been a suicide attempt.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. So the folks who are transgender have the highest rate of suicide among any group of people in the country. And typically speaking, the only time they're ever considering any type of gender affirming care for a child is if that child's mental well-being is so troubled because of the situation with their gender, that they have to consider all interventions, and gender affirming care might be one of those interventions.
Yeah.
And that's the part that they leave out when they talk about it.
Yeah,
I mean, we're actually talking about saving the life of a child through gender affirming care. It's never just like, oh, Timmy, today you want to wear a dress. Let's go get you some hormones. Okay. Like, it's not like that. It's literally like people are going through this. And I know people who are transgendered individuals who are adults, that it's taken them years and years and years. And let's not forget how incredibly expensive that any of this is.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I know somebody who's transgender that they have been living, they transitioned for themselves at age, 26, right? Yeah. And is hoping someday to be able to afford the other surgeries that they want. Right. So this is something that it's never just like a flip decision.
And I think you also too have to look at, because it is so expensive, and because some youth, teenagers, and maybe even teenagers that get kicked out of their homes are struggling so much that there's a whole black market for this. And it could be dangerous if
I mean, that's the other thing that we can talk about too. You want to talk about what percentage of homeless youth are LGBT? It's upwards of 80%.
Yeah.
And amongst them, here's the other thing that we don't like to talk about, because this is what happens when you create an environment where children are not welcome in their home. How do it's not even just a black market for stuff, but a whole lot of those youth are sexually abused, because that's how they can find a home. That is how they can afford to live in a hotel when their parents won't take them in.
Absolutely.
And it happens every single day. I've seen it firsthand. I've worked with a youth homeless program right here in Southwest Florida in Charlotte County. And this happens every single day. And if you've ever been to Charlotte County, you've ever been to Punta Gorda, you know it's about as white bread gets. And if I tell you that there are any single given night of the week, 100 LGBT kids who are tricking or being tricked out because they have no place to go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It happens. Even in the most otherwise mundane of communities.
Yeah, I've definitely had many of friends that have been in that scenario, and it's very common. And being kicked out of your home is very common. And I think people think, because like the young people I know are like shocked by the fact that, and I'm referring to just being gay, lesbian, or however you identify, even not trans, people are shocked, like, oh, it was rough. It's still rough. It's still rough. You still face a lot of discrimination, a lot of, children with families that are completely unaccepting, staying closeted, or getting kicked out of their homes when they do come out. So this is still a thing. And even when it comes to same-sex marriage, I'm like, some of my classmates are like in disbelief that it wasn't legal always. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it's only been 8 years now. I got married the year it was legalized in 2015. And that was 8 years ago. Like, to think that and going back to that, like, if Roe can be overturned after 50 years, like, that's why we have to be, I'm going to plug voting right now, because if we're not diligent about how we're voting, any one of our freedoms, any one of our protections can be stripped. And we're watching that happen in real time right now in the state of Florida, specifically across the nation. Really, there are attempts, but in Florida right now is like ground zero, I feel like.
It is. And it's because it's politically motivated. Ron DeSantis has aspirations of presidency. Well, this is what's so funny. I don't know what you're going to say, but do you know that Donald Trump is suing him?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
You go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I was just
okay.
So Donald, go.
Donald Trump's PAC, a PAC that he's associated with, is begging for the ethics committee, the Florida Commission.
Yes.
Commission.
Which is funny because Ron DeSantis appoints all those people. But anyway.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're asking that he be investigated.
It's a nothing burger, but it'll tie him up.
But there is some Trump, I will say, has a point. He's accusing Ron DeSantis of running a shadow campaign. So basically that means that he's running for president without saying he's running for president. But with all of the documentation, campaign finance, like that's kind of a big deal. Like if he's getting gifts, if he's getting funds without making that, Cindy, you probably know more about this than I do, but I think
I don't know about the fundraising
Trump feels
side.
like this could create a disadvantage or an advantage for Ron DeSantis. And I'm sorry, but I'm here for the Ron DeSantis versus Trump show. I am here for it. I look forward to it. Cannot wait to watch them destroy each other.
Such petty bullshit, but yeah, I am too.
I mean, I'm here for it. And
hey, wait, speaking of petty bullshit, do you know who else is running for president in the GOP primary?
no,
Joe Exotic.
no, shut your
Tiger
mouth.
King announced his bid for presidency behind bars in Alabama.
Now we just need, what's her name? Carol Baskins.
Carol Baskins. She should run as a Democrat.
Let's get Carol Baskins on the.
What?
Yeah, I don't know
remember,
if I
listen,
want Carol
they found
Baskins.
Carol Baskins' husband.
No, that's a myth. That's a myth. I saw that. Actually, I own a tattoo shop right here in downtown Fort Myers, Dark Moth Tattoo, plug. But I came out of my office the other day because I hear people saying, did you know they found Carol Baskins' husband? And what I found is that that's a myth. And she's promoting it, which of course she is if she really murdered him, right? She's like, no, he's alive. He's in Costa Rica.
Oh, you guys remember Tiger King in the beginning of COVID?
COVID in the beginning was
Surreal.
a vibe.
Yeah, it was.
It was surreal, but it was like a break from life for everyone. And then
like everybody watched Tiger King and Disney sing-alongs and
and then Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and then all hell broke loose politically, socially. I mean, it was hell that needed. Okay, let me rephrase that because I'm not going to say that needed to happen, but the hell that broke loose needed to happen, like to bring to the forefront the injustices that many people know about, but we're not being seen. I mean, even thinking about like Black Lives Matter as an organization, they've been going on or been an organization since Trayvon Martin. And not many people were really on board with that until George Floyd. So I think it brought the masses together because we were kind of all in that pause from everything. Everybody was able to pay attention and come together. And, I hate that it's died down.
I was going to say, well, now we just have to survive.
Right.
And, here in Florida, I think that, we're here in Fort Myers. So Fort Myers is still reeling ostensibly from Hurricane Ian. Lots of different.
Coming off the back of COVID.
Off the back of COVID. Yeah, we're 6 months from Hurricane Ian. My friend Megan, who's been visiting with her family, just went out to the islands, can attest that they are still flattened. Right. Very little things going, few businesses, but it's tough, right? We have learned since then that there was, fights between the local government and the federal government with FEMA trailers, people not getting their housing. We learned that the insurance companies were bilking people, providing as low as only 20% of estimated damages. Now, we also have found that the insurance companies across the state of Florida are also not reinsuring people in hurricane zones. Oh, and by the way, over 12,000 residential structures were destroyed. Right. So we have a housing crisis causing extreme inflation, way, way, way above what we're seeing nationally. And we're already seeing nationally inflation in housing. Yeah. So on top of that, Lee County leads the state in unemployment because our small businesses are, so many were decimated on the beach and tourists just are not coming because you can't even swim in the water. So we're on the precipice of like the worst of the worst right now.
Right. I feel like they're still coming because I don't know what the hell, like traffic is still insane. It's
because of spring training.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Actually, spring training brings in almost as much money as the beaches do.
Well, I was going to say, because a lot of these, like what's going on in higher education, like I know myself, I'm relieved that I'm done in July. Like, I don't have to deal with all of this.
Yeah.
But like, are we going to really attract students still to these universities in Florida? I mean, UF is a great university, but who wants to come to the universities here?
And that's interesting too. So there's been some commentary by Ron DeSantis and his administration,
Right.
And specifically related to New College. And just a little primer for those of you that don't know what's going on at New College. New College was a small liberal arts college, public university up near
Sarasota.
It's
in Sarasota. I was actually supposed to go there.
Oh, interesting.
It's an honors college.
Yeah.
And it's liberal arts, super small, awesome school, great faculty. And they have been made a target because they're specifically a liberal arts school.
Right. And it started with Ron DeSantis appointing people to the board. We already talked a little bit about that. So he put his cronies and folks on that board, and then they fired the president, and then they put in a very conservative president of the university. And what the administration had said about this was that, look, we don't care what's going to happen, because what we're going to do is we're going to attract a new type of student, and everybody's going to be responsive to that. So I don't think they care.
Yeah, that's the plan. They're trying to weed all of the liberals out. And I hate to use the labels, but really, in all honesty, they're trying to weed people out and attract. And it's working, unfortunately. I think to a certain extent. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. Southwest Florida
I legally can't, but
she's legally bound, but
I have to stay within 50 miles of my marital home.
I love Southwest Florida. Like, I love our community here. I feel like we have such a special community, but it's, so I'm going to fight. I'm going to stay and fight and for as long as I can, but it does sometimes feel like we're getting defeated.
Well, it's just tough. I mean, we got beat in the long game. What did I even see? Ron DeSantis was quoted as saying the Democratic Party was left dead on the side of the road. Yikes. In the last election. Yeah. Which is, there was a lot of things that happened in the 2022 election. We can also kind of say candidates, quality. Sorry. She worked for Charlie Crist, okay?
I'm like, wait a minute, lady. Hey, listen, I love me some Charlie Crist.
I love Charlie Crist too.
And people did not understand. What I heard a lot of is he wasn't progressive enough. And I feel like those people did not read his policy. They did not, because he was very, very progressive. And his policies, shout out to some of our team, man.
I think that it didn't have anything to do with that. I think it had to do, Charlie was too nice for politics today.
I agree.
For Florida politics, Charlie was too nice.
Chantel and I talk about this a lot and I think we all feel this way. Like, Democrats, stop falling into the stereotype of being this weak, meek, shrill. Like, stop that.
Yeah.
Stop that. Like, no, we don't need to be like a Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay. We don't need to be ignorant. Sorry. But we do need to fight back. We need to put some teeth into the fight. So I agree with that. But I think we also, Charlie, he is sweet.
He's a very nice,
sweet, good man.
I just think it was like that matchup was not going to be good. And frankly, neither was Nikki versus Charlie.
No,
it was going to be bad, because there was going to be a ton of other stuff. She would have had the sexism and all this other stuff going against her.
Yeah.
But I think what we've seen in Florida in particular is that people got really ginned up about DeSantis. They got COVID was a really weird time, and it really just kind of invigorated people, and there is something that to be said right now in these times of uncertainty. People are drawn to strong men. This is actually how dictatorships are formed.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
right?
absolutely. It's like right out of the fascist playbook.
Yeah, it's like you people, because it makes them feel comfortable, and that's how the attractiveness of some of these candidates right now.
Right.
People love that Ron DeSantis is just like, whatever, we're going here.
They love
we're
that
doing
about
this.
Trump too.
And they love that about Trump.
But you know what? Again, Chantel, another drop to you. This is what we talk about a lot. I think it's because especially Trump, can sometimes say things that are so outlandish that people know he's being real. There's no facade. There's no, I'm sorry, Democrats. I'm a Democratic Party member, but like sometimes we sound like robots. Like our messaging, it sounds too contrived.
We
It's like
sound weak. We do sound weak. And listen, I'll tell you, as somebody who, as a candidate, one of the things that I get all the time is people are mad at me because I'm not super weak. Because I do say these things.
Isn't that
I will
like
come back? But see, what we don't understand, this is what the other folks don't understand, is that the primary system does this. The Democratic people, the Democratic primary voters voted for Charlie because he was a nice guy.
Right.
The rest of Florida said, we don't fucking want a nice guy. We want somebody who's going to kick ass. And so the pressure that I face, and I can tell you from behind the curtains, is that other Democrats, and I'm going to say it's our older white boomer Democrats.
Love you guys,
just want to be like, can't you just be like a little more nice? And do you have to say fuck? And do you like can you just like your dress is too short and it's just you're a little too loud? And do you have to?
But wait, this is like women in general.
The protesters, and I go fuck yes I do, and that's a problem for them, and it makes it real. I'm telling you, like, there is a disconnect. Well, and
it's even worse because you're a woman.
Of course,
that's a whole nother issue. Is that the only reason why you're being judged like that as being aggressive is that Vice President Harris gets the same thing. Sure. I hear the same thing about Vice President Harris all the time. She's rude. She's this. She's that. She's a boss. Mm-hmm. She is a boss, and that's how boss women act, and that's how we should act.
Look at it like that's what. But it's like we pick Charlie as Democrats because Democrats didn't like Trump because he was so mean.
See, here's the thing. Here's what I liked about Charlie, because yes, he presents as being very nice because he is. He presents as being kind because he is. But he's also someone who has always stood up for Floridians, which is why, so he is tough in action, which is why he got booted from the Republican Party, because he said, fuck you. I'm doing what's best for Floridians. Right. I'm working with Barack Obama. And that's what I liked about him. That's what I respected about him, because that's real. And I liked his policy, who I feel like nobody read. I feel like more people needed to read his policy.
Nobody reads policy. Nobody votes on policy. People vote on how they feel.
And
that's the other thing that Democrats, and listen, I'm a wonk. I'm an academic. I'm a professor.
Same.
Fucking understand it. Like, listen, nobody fucking reads that shit. I can tell you, I can pull up the fucking stats from my website and tell you nobody reads
They don't, and it's so frustrating.
They want to feel good. They want to and that was
Hitler made people feel good, for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
I know. It's a struggle.
I mean, but that's what I'm saying. If we want to stop Hitler, Democrats got to fucking grow a pair.
See, this is the thing. This is not an exageration. It's not an exageration.
If you want to save the country, get strong, be cool, and
be
stop.
Cool.
No, I'm serious.
No,
though.
I know.
They make caricatures of Trump on a fucking tank with the flag looking like Rambo, and they put it on a T-shirt because they love that shit. People love that shit.
We had Charlie Crist as Florida Man. No, what was it? He was a superhero, and look, I love me some Charlie Crist. Okay, but I get the point. I do, and I do agree. People don't want to take the time to read that. They do want somebody who presents as a strong leader, somebody who's going to stand up for them and represent them well. And I think we need people that are real too. Like,
I agree.
You have to be real with people, because the idea of this corrupt politician and that nobody really cares. There are people. That's what I tell people all the time that are like, I don't pay attention to politics. They're all corrupt. No, they're not. Cindy,
there's a lot who are. I'm not corrupt.
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know. Yeah, there are.
But there are Democrats in this state that are.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's how that.
But you're not going to
get confused by that too.
Exactly. But you're not going to stop them by not engaging, by not voting. Like, you have to. And anybody can run for office.
Anybody can run.
Anybody can run for office.
So listen, so we may be roadkill, Ron DeSantis, but I may just get back up and hunt your ass at night.
Exactly. That's what we're going to do, Ron.
All right.
You and Trump are going to destroy each other, and Cindy and I are here for it.
Right. We're here for it. We're going to I hope they don't dissolve the entire party. That's going to be a big.
No, you want to hear my
That's going to
prediction
be
before
a
we
big
go?
red tape nightmare.
This is my best friend and I co-sponsored this prediction that Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis will run together in the primary. If Ron DeSantis beats Trump in the primary, we predict that Ron and Don, it's hard to keep track, that Donald Trump will run on the independent ticket. Because I don't think he can stand to lose. And I think he would rather see a Democrat elected than lose to Ron DeSantis.
That'll be fun. So 2024, man, it's going to be a good time. But anyway, thank you so much, Sarah, for joining today. Got a little bit of different flavor. You got me excited here at the end.
Good.
Sorry, just because I like Charlie. I like him. But if Ron DeSantis can beat him in fucking white boots, I mean, come on.
Oh my God, the boots. The boots. What were you doing, Ron? His faces. Have you seen? I've taken screenshots of his faces that he makes during speeches, press conferences where he's behind. Oh my gosh. I don't know.
So actually Big Mouth Media has an amazing new shirt. Have you seen it?
No.
Fascist Snowflake. You've seen the meme, you've seen the photo of the woman in Iowa who gave Ron DeSantis a snowflake, and he's sitting there smiling, holding it, but it says fascist in cursive. We took that and put it on a t-shirt for you.
So that really happened?
That really happened.
That is hilarious.
And it doesn't matter because we have a shirt. So if you want to memorialize it on a shirt, have a laugh, get your fascist snowflake t-shirt on bigmouthmediafl.com. You'll see it on our Instagram page as well. And don't forget to watch the edited version of this, which comes out every Tuesday. We have the podcast version. And then for our subscribers on Big Mouth Media, you can watch the full video version.
Awesome.
Our YouTube channel will have a couple teasers. So we pulled out a couple little bites from last week's episode that you're going to want to check out on our YouTube channel. And here's the thing. One of the bills that is coming through the Florida legislature, but we didn't talk about today, was the one that is going to require bloggers to register with the state. Yes. So there is an attack on journalism and media in the state. So we need your help and support. So support this podcast. You can get your subscription to Juice monthly for $4.99 a month. You can get an annual subscription for $49.99 a year. Those subscriptions get you access to the show. You will be able to come on live with us and ask a question. You get access to the videos afterwards. And then we're going to have some great live events coming up in the summer as well. So you'll be able to be invited to those. And you get to support us at Big Mouth Media. You can get the everything package, which is all of the shows. And we have new shows coming up. We have 2 new shows that are going to be released in the next 2 weeks. You're going to want to check those out. That's Now You Know with Howard Sapp and Political Perspective with Carrie Lerner and the Lee County Democrats.
All right.
So those shows are coming up, but you can get the everything subscription, $19.99 a month or $199 a year. And you can help support independent media in the state of Florida, which is continuously under attack. Help us keep the lights on. Help us produce good content for you, which we know is not going to get into the regular media here because it's all controlled. Mm-hmm. But we can have this independent voice, and we can have it. We can only do it with your support. So check that out at bigmouthmediafl.com. Whew. That's the pitch.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
But that pay your monies is basically that in a nutshell.
Help us. Especially if we have to go to jail for blogging.
I'll go to jail for blogging.
I'll go to jail for blogging too. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. See you next time.